is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Deadwood, Season 1, Episode 12, Sold Under Sin. In this episode, I have to say that I think this may be one of the most perfect season finales I've ever seen of any show. This was so good. I was cheering in my living room. I was anxious. I was glad. I was touched. They had it all. This was some good shit. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Patrick for commissioning this episode. Patrick, you did not steer me wrong on this show, my brother. This was some good shit. I am delighted to have found out that there are, in fact, 3 seasons of this show and not 2. I always thought there were 2. And I wonder if the 3rd season... I know so many people wanted another season. And I have to imagine that the 3rd season did not end in this sort of way. Because if this were the last episode of the show ever, I would still be satisfied. I would desperately want more, don't get me wrong. But this is a beautiful ending that's so, carefully and deliberately thought out. And they take their time with it. And I think I've started to realize that that is the mark of a show that's really, that takes things to another level, is when they trust that their audience is going to want to pay attention and is going to be engrossed, and they don't hurry things or rush things out of a need to keep the action going at all times, because that's not what it necessarily has to be about. Of course, that depends on the type of show it is, but I really do think even if you're doing an action show, that there are going to be times that long, still, introverted sort of moments are going to make or break the rest of the action. It's sort of like, the action is the light and the stillness is the dark. And if you don't have any darkness, the light doesn't look like anything. So you know how it is when you watch a Michael Bay movie and it's eventually half an hour, 45 minutes in, everything's exploding and you've completely stopped noticing. Because it's just been a cacophony from beginning to end of things exploding and you've just sort of tuned it out. I feel like this show is really, really good at those moments of violence and excitement, and those don't necessarily go together, being made to count and standing out so that things don't run together. Would I say that this is in general a violent show? Absolutely. But that would not be the first thing that I would say about it. And this stands apart to me so much. I've already made the comparison to The Sopranos because, it's a prestige show. It's similarly about organized crime, although this is a very different type of organized. And it's a show with very few likable characters. In fact, I would argue that there are almost no likable characters on The Sopranos. This show, I feel like, has done a better job in terms of making that violence feel... And I hesitate to say this, but I've already put myself on record in the earlier episode where I described how I felt about The Sopranos as saying that I generally see it as a show that is misunderstood by a lot of people. It's something that I don't feel like that show glorified violence. I think they made it seem as undignified and petty and awful as it actually is. But I feel like so many people see it as a celebration of being in the mob versus kind of an indictment of who you have to be in order to function within that kind of system. And that ambiguity, I feel like, it has to come from somewhere. And maybe it's the stupidity of people, and I shouldn't blame the show for it. But I do think that having no redeeming people can be a bit of a problem. And this show has done something I think is really tricky, which is to make the redeeming people as flawed as the, quote, villains, and made us sort of root for the villains in a lot of ways. And it starts to turn around in this episode so that people that you like, you kind of assume, or at least I do, that everything is going to go as wrong as it possibly can. And that this show, you know, up till now, has had a bit of a nihilistic streak and has seemed to be a, you know, a primer in how corrupt human beings are. And just generally, there's been a vibe to it of, this is how we get the systems that we have now, by greedy, bad people with power who put their friends in power because they know that this is what they're going to do, that this is what they're going to, like how they're going to operate, because that's how they always have. And, excuse me, this finale kind of like undercuts all of what I expected this to be. Yeah, I thought that it was going to end on a note of like, you know, isn't this a tragic bit of a beginning to the unworthiness of our civilization? And do you see how everything has been rotten from the very beginning? And while I definitely think that's still part of the message, there's a hopefulness that they inject here that is just so beautifully done and feels so earned that it just caught me completely off guard. So I'm going to start talking about the actual episode, shall we? We start off with a prolonged shot of Al. And he is standing on his balcony, looking down over the town as he is wont to do. And he seems to be staring at the, I thought, at the hardware shop. Because I imagine he is still pretty angry at the fact that Trixie slept with Saul. He doesn't say anything. Doherty comes out, gives him his cup of coffee, and then walks away and leans against the door jamb and just looks at him while he stares off. There's no dialogue at all. I actually really liked this scene. Then we go to poor Reverend. Oh boy, this poor dude. And he is in a really bad way, having hallucinations and convulsions and seizures and everything. It's really hard to watch, and the doctor is just like in agonies over having to watch this man suffer, and no real end is in sight. He's degraded pretty quickly, so you can hope that it's going to be over soon. But, I mean, I have heard of people who are dealing with this sort of illness lasting for a very long time before they finally die. And I think that the doctor probably also has. I mean, based on the prayer that he says later. So the magistrate rides in, and Al sees him, and is kind of, obviously, unpleasantly surprised, because he was hoping that the man that he had sent, that he thought was on his side, was going to take care of this motherfucker. But it appears not. So and I, of course, was also a little disappointed. Like, for a second, I kind of did the, oh, shit, I really thought that guy was on your side, but I guess he's not. And then I sort of had to stop and be like, well, maybe he's smart. And there was not, like, a good opportunity for him to take care of this dude. And he's, like, intelligent enough to know that he would have been found out, and so would Al. And so he didn't make his move. And it looks really bad, but it's actually kind of explainable. And it turns out it's sort of like that. He says that the magistrate had turned around and ridden out already when he was on his way back. Now, I don't know how many different ways there are to go, but I would have to imagine that they'd have passed each other on the road. However, you know, I don't know. Maybe they were coming from different directions entirely. But yeah, so it turns out that the magistrate is here with General Crooks, or General Crook, sorry, not plural crooks. Which it turns out to be a misnomer, because this guy is about as straight arrowed as it's possible to be while still being wildly racist. Because, you know, the tale that they tell about, like, taking down the Sioux and the Cheyenne later is just, it's just so hard to listen to, y'all. We just fucking, ugh. Why? It's just so frustrating. But anyway, so it turns out that the general is, and fucking the magistrate tries to, and he's pretty convincing, I have to admit, on this. He tries to convince Al later that he has the general's ear, that he could, you know, that the general has taken to listening to only his advice. We know from the way the general spoke to the magistrate that this is not true at all. The magistrate really could give a fuck. Like, he is I suspect that he suspects that the magistrate is absolutely crooked, and he just, you know, decides to sort of stay hands off and mind his own business about it, but he's also not going to let the guy get involved in his own affairs. But yeah, even now he's called to Camp Robinson. They're talking to each other, like, with Johnny and Doherty watching, and they're all very on edge, like, not really sure what they're going to do. Because it seems like at first that the magistrate and the general are friends, and that the general is going to sort of try and, I don't know, maybe use some leverage against Al. Like, he thinks that this is coming in as a threat, not realizing that this is actually, like, essentially unrelated. These are they're a bunch of men coming into town who he wants to have a good enough time to boost their morale, to rest, to heal, but not such a good time that they'll desert. Because deserting is absolutely a problem. Like, you know, we find out later that a lot of the men who came with him are starting to, like, trade for prospecting tools, meaning that they're just going to, like, run off into the hills and try and find some gold and hope for the best. So, yeah, I really enjoy the fact that Al pulls aside the magistrate while Crooks is still there. He says something like, oh, you'll need to stay and talk to me. Because I feel like, I don't know if Al did this on purpose. It could be just what he had to do, and it just wound up working out really well for him. But I feel like the general didn't quite know how crooked the magistrate was until he saw how Al treated him, and then sort of made an assumption there, which lowered the magistrate in his own estimation, and thus made it even more pointless for Al to keep the magistrate alive. It sort of wound up working for him quite well. So, yeah, he kind of tries to suggest here, and again later, that he just needs more money in order to get rid of this warrant. And he just, tries to play it off like, well, I'm in the position of power here, so you're just pretty much going to have to do what you need to do. And I'm just like, do you understand who you're fucking talking to? Apparently not. Yeah, he says to him, Al says, the magistrate, perhaps you don't value keeping your guts inside your belly enough. And the magistrate, with all this, and it could be argued that this is false bravado, but it feels like he really is this confident. Just says, those days are behind us. And Al says, no, those days are to my fucking left. And turns and looks over his shoulder at Doherty, who was standing behind the bar, glaring at the magistrate. It's so beautifully timed. Like, I want to know, when you have henchmen, do they just start to know when to stand behind you and look threatening? And how far away to stand and how to do it? Because, like, that is a beautiful little moment. And I always love the, like, conceit in shows like this of the boss man being able to say something really cryptic too, and the henchman knowing exactly what the boss means that he wants done. And I want to know how you get to that point, like how long you have to have been working together and what kind of synergy you've got mentally in order to talk that way to each other and still be perfectly well understood. And I would love to see, a beginner's henchman boss where it's like they're both perfectly competent people, but they just keep misunderstanding each other, and working out all of the kinks involved with that would be really funny to me. But yeah, Doherty, like, listen, I know Doherty's a murderer. I know that, maybe he's even like a borderline pedophile. I know that there's another word for guys for people, I should say, not just for men, who are into teenagers specifically rather than children. I think it's hebophile. Is that right? Because of the way that he was acting with old Veronica Mars. But he still has such a sort of like sweet face that it's hard for me to think of him as a cold-blooded killer. And this moment where you see him standing behind the bar staring them down, he definitely looks scary, actually. Like that was genuinely a moment of, and you can see that the magistrate feels the same way. And he tries to sort of reason with Al and be like, you can't just get rid of a warrant. It's been sent over the wire. There are people who send it to each other. It's circled around through various hands, and it doesn't just disappear. To which Al says, get the fuck out of my joint. I would agree with this dude if it felt like there was any sort of paper trail on this, but he's obviously just trying to scare Al into believing that there's nothing to be done, because he's greedy. That's all it is. He's greedy. So, all right, we go to the moment where Mr. Merrill, Merrick, is taking photos of all of the men outside. I love so much all of the things that are happening here. First of all, I love Merrick. I know I've said it already, and I will say it again, but he is the cutest, dumbest man. He's so intelligent, and yet, bless him. It's almost like there are people like him out there, and I can't decide if they just don't have the same kind of shame or need to be liked that the rest of us do, or if they genuinely are just so wrapped up in their own enjoyment that they really don't care if other people like them because they're having the best time. And I want to think it's the second one. I want to think that he's just like having such a great time making his newspaper and taking his photos and all this, that when people get mad at him, he's just kind of like, oh, well, go fuck yourself. I'm having an awesome time. I would love that. But I really enjoy that when the magistrate comes out here, he sees all of them getting their pictures taken together, and he isn't even involved in this, and how like affronted he looks. And the general looks straight in his eyes like, we're doing this without you. You don't have anything to do with it. And I was like, that's pretty sweet. So we also do have to, I want to mention Doherty, who does not like the fact that Al has a new potential second-hand man. He doesn't like the idea of being ousted for Silas, so he tries to suggest that maybe the magistrate's dead because he bought back his bag man. Al, obviously he is a pragmatist, and he acknowledges that that is certainly possible, but you can tell he doesn't really believe it. EB comes in, and Al tells him about how there's going to be a parade, and asks him if he's going to lead the hosannas, and I adore these moments with that are between the three of them, because Doherty's always laughing at EB, and EB is always unaware because Doherty's so subtle about it. Later on, EB says something Doherty says something and EB laughs, and Doherty straight up says to him, "Did I say something fucking funny?" And I want to read you what the interaction was when we get there, because I'm not entirely sure what was funny either, and I can't tell if that's like EB trying to get back at Doherty for making fun of him all the time, meaning that he actually has been noticing, but I don't think so. I don't know. But anyway, so EB's on his way out to sort of, organize the parade and whatnot, and the doc comes in, and he says, "Doc, do you want to be part of the committee that assists with, let's see, cavalry in camp, Doc? May I number you in the reception committee? Fuck the cavalry and the committee that receives them." And the camera isn't focused on Al's face, but you see him really laugh. Like, that's a little bit of a belly laugh from Al, which is such a rare thing to see, a genuine laugh. I have said it before, but I have to say it again. The doc is like one of the best characters on this show, and I love the fact, as much as I sometimes wonder if Al begrudges it, he respects the doc so, like, he so clearly does in this way that I think that he is almost surprised by it. I don't know if he expected a bespectacled academic to be the guy who was, but I love moments like this. These are my friggin' like the dessert, and you see him like laughing to himself, and I think he's got like a lemon or something, or a piece of peach, canned peach, that's what it is. And then Trixie says, "Hi, Doc," and Al hears her voice, and his face falls, and he goes like straight upstairs because he's just trying to ignore her. And Trixie looks irritated by the fact that Al is clearly still ignoring her. So what is the doc here for today? He has a leg brace that he made. Okay. Can we all just talk about how great Jewel is for like 20 minutes? Because she's just such a good character. I love her. I love the fact that she can't let go of her broom, and she makes a joke out of it, rather than just being like, "Oh, I can't, you'll have to help me. You'll have to remove it from my clutches," and says it in this way. And then the doc has this brace, and he wants to help her, and he is really worried that she's going to become so excited about using a brace that helps her out that she's not going to tell him the truth about how she's feeling, and it's going to fuck her up, because apparently if there's numbness or tingling with the brace, it can cause problems with circulation, and that can lead to her winding up losing the leg. And I assume that the doc has encountered this sort of thing before. Somebody lying to him about their symptoms because they want to hold on to something that's been working for them otherwise. And he kind of yells at her in this scene, like, he is telling her, "You need to tell me." And she says, "Stop yelling, Doc. I'm yelling at you because I want you to goddamn understand. And she just says, I understand, okay. So, they try this leg out. Spoiler alert. This winds up working out great. This little subplot is like, it just warms my little heart. Because you know this is the kind of shit the Doc lives for. Like, you know, helping people make it through to the other side of a deadly disease is all well and good. But improving the daily overall life of somebody who struggles because of some, you know, birth defects or results of wounds or something, I feel like this requires a kind of like a puzzle solving thing that means even more to him. And the fact that it seems to be working out well by the end of the episode. He needed something. And that is exactly the thing to sort of see him through. And I just love it so much. So he goes up to see Al after showing her how to get this on. And he says, I hear about the minister. He's at my place. He's damn near blind, mostly paralyzed, past controlling his functions. And Al says, you're preaching to the converted. I would have seen to him, but I've been fucking busy. And the Doc says he doesn't want to be seen to like that. And Al says, well, what the fuck are we talking about? Which, kind of an agreement with Al on this one. And the Doc says, I want him to be somewhere comfortable. I don't want him to be laying on this, like, weird pallet on the ground or whatever it is that he's got. And, of course, Al puts up a bit of a fight here because he feels like he does not owe anything in regards to this reverend, which, he's technically right. But the Doc, this interaction's the best. It's similar to what I had just been describing in terms of, like, the moment of respect. The Doc says you get to care for a human being in his last extremity. And Al replies, a human being in his last extremity is a bag of shit. And he starts to walk away, and Doc just snaps and just yells, "Aw, fuck you, Al," with, like, real feeling, genuine, like, emotion behind it. He's not going to start a fight or anything, but he's going to let you fucking know that he just can't. And the way that Al looks at him is so good. He turns around like he's annoyed, but you can also see him, like, kind of smiling. Like, he's just like, well, shit, little man, you keep on just having fucking brass balls, and I can't even be mad at you. You know, that look that he gets. I love it so much. And his next response is, I'll send someone over to pick him up. And I love the Doc looks, like, surprised that Al suddenly capitulates, because I don't think the Doc entirely realizes how much Al respects him. I don't think he gets the admiration that's just under the surface there. Like, I like it better, too, that he doesn't seem to quite understand it, because I feel like if he did, he'd try to take advantage of it a little too much, and it is right where it is. It's only when he really needs him that he ever resorts to this kind of thing. And Al would know if he was being manipulated, so he's smart enough to sense that kind of shit. So I really like things where they are, with Al, like, respecting and admiring him and not letting it show, and the Doc really having no idea. And, low-key, sometimes I think he thinks Al's just doing the right thing because he's been guilted into it. And I'm like, he's only ever doing the right thing because you asked him to, and he likes you. Like, yeah, and he tells Al about the brace. And Al's like, well, will it keep her from dragging her goddamn leg around and making all that noise? And he says, if the noise bothers you so much, put cotton in your ears. And Al laughs and says, get the fuck out of here, huh, Doc? I love them. I love them. They, like, there's something about the two of them. And when he says just as the Doc is leaving, how about that other one? The Doc leans in his head and just goes, Trixie's fine. Like, you're not going to not say her name to me. Okay, dude? Again, little moments of just fucking defiance for the sake of it, because he cannot stand this shit. So, here's the part that I really don't want to deal with. But we're going to have to. The Chinatown storyline. I'm not excited about it, you guys. Whenever my voice does that, it's because I've got my hands over my mouth because I'm rubbing my face in frustration. For those of you who are not watching on camera. I don't want to see what's going to happen here. I really don't. I'm not excited. Like, there's no good direction this can go in. White people wanting what people of color have and creating false narratives to take it is how this country was fucking founded. And this is just, writ small. And I hate it. And I hate Cy Tolliver so much. I hate him so much. Oh. And like, is Al that much fucking better? Of course he's really not. Like, yeah, he works with Wu, but he doesn't, like, respect them as equals, the Asian community. He just knows that it's practical for business to work with Wu. So it's not really, like, if I don't... Al stands to gain more by continuing to work peaceably with Wu and sell dope than he would to try and oust them and take the land that they're on, which is what Cy is trying to do. And this scene is so fucking clumsy, and it's just, frankly, beneath Cy. And I think Cy even recognizes that. Like, he's watching it happen, and you get the vibe that he's embarrassed by the whole thing, even though it's at his behest. Because both of the men, Leon and fucking Stapleton, the erstwhile mayor, are so fucking unsubtle and obvious about shit. It's just ham-fisted like crazy. Size walks away from this, and you can see Wu watching him walk away. Like, Wu is aware who is responsible for all of this. And I wonder where this is going to lead, because Wu comes to Al looking for help later, and Al clearly tells him, there is nothing that I can do. And Wu is not obviously very happy with that at the time, and I wonder whether or not he is practical enough to realize later that maybe Al is right, or if this is going to turn him against Al, and whether or not this is going to become a schism between the two of them that leads to him having no allies, which could be really bad also. There's just a couple ways that this could go, depending on how Wu decides he feels about it, and whether or not he's able to put aside justice for practicality, which is what Al basically yells at him. Did you come here for justice or to make your way? And Wu doesn't want to hear him, but sometimes you don't in the moment because you're angry and you feel robbed. And maybe if he sits on it and thinks about it later, he will come around. It's hard to tell, though, how much English Wu understands. So I don't know if what Al said sunk in at all, if he even knows what it meant. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here, because what winds up happening with this storyline here is that the dude who did the laundry for Leon, he winds up dead, and we don't see it happen. I think it's supposed to be that Leon... Let's see. I'm going back because it happens so fast. And there's so many people involved here, because we've got Cy kind of standing on the outside watching. We, at this point, have Seth, who's, fired up still over a thing that I will get to, coming across it. But the dude's already dead. It is the sheriff. He tried to blind me with that lie, sheriff, because he's got lie for doing the laundry. And the sheriff's holding his gun up and says, "This ain't no single shot Derringer. Everybody stay back." So that's right. He did. And then Leon pulls a knife. Right. Because I got it confused with Leon having the knife out that he knifed the guy. But it turns out that this is the fucking sheriff. And I want to acknowledge, too, that not only is Seth watching this and disgusted, but we also have the other dude who I can't remember who put Stapleton in place, watching and looking at his feet like in horror as he realizes how completely this dude has already been bought, even though he's had the job for like 2 days. And I can't remember the dude's name. I'm sorry, guys. Tom Nuttall. That's it. Tom Nuttall is like, he was warned by Al. Don't trust him. Don't depend on him. You know, he was told, but it's really obvious that he expected better despite that. Like I think he at least thought, A, that it would take longer, and B, that the guy would be fucking more subtle about it. But murdering somebody in the middle of the street the way that he did is really not what he was expecting at all. It's so much worse and so much more flagrant and so much more cowardly and transparent and making a mockery out of the whole position that he feels like he did his friend a favor to get, that I think he takes that shit some real personally. I was pleased to see the way that this wound up, because this dude winds up backing Seth. I wanted to say Tim because that's his actual name. He winds up backing him when Seth takes the sheriff's pin off him and throws it into the mud. Dude bends over to pick it up, and Nuttall is like, "No, you fucking leave it there. That's where it's like, you don't deserve that shit. This is pathetic." So yeah, I really enjoyed this little turn of events, and that Nuttall is smart enough to see that he has been taken for a ride a little bit, that he's just, you know, I wasn't sure what to think of Nuttall. I wasn't sure really whether or not he was going to be, what's the word I want? If he wasn't going to take advantage of his friend being in the position that he's in. Because, if he were a different type of dude, Nuttall could try and jump on the coattails of the guy who is now Cy Tolliver's man and try and, use that as something. But instead, he's just disgusted. So that rises him in my estimation. And I should mention too, and this is a small thing, but man, this is really some good shit here. It's hard to watch, but it's done in a really what's the word? Careful isn't really the word I want, but that's the one I can think of right now. When fucking Seth is watching, because he comes across the sheriff, Stapleton, in the crowd when they're listening to the speech from the general. And Seth is standing next to a man with a bad scar on his head. Like, he obviously got some kind of injury in the fighting. And it's clearly kind of fucked him up. And I have no doubt that there's a mixture of a mental illness mixed in here too. Maybe he's got PTSD, but it seems like there's an implication from the way that he's sort of grabbing at his scalp where the scar is, that it didn't heal properly, or there's shrapnel still under his skin, or something is wrong, right? And he's talking to himself about what they all went through, and mentions that the Sioux burned up all the grass so that none of the men had any food for their horses, and they wound up having to eat their horses, and how he really can't forgive that. And he says something about how he went after the women and children specifically as retribution for killing his mare, as he puts it. And it's really, simultaneously, has this guy clearly been through some shit and is genuinely damaged by it? Fucking yes. But also, this guy killed human beings in response to the death of his horse. He killed like a bunch of them. And holy shit, dude. And they obviously, he doesn't think of them as human beings at all. And neither does anybody. It's just, there's a lot happening here. It's like this man is himself trash, but he's also been put through some garbage that's just like, and for what? I hate. War is just, most of the time, war is very stupid. And there are times where I think it's waged for the right reasons and it's necessary, but mostly it's not. And we don't really hear about the ones that it's not. We hear about the ones that make us feel good and righteous and whatever. But things like this, where it's just for land, and you're fucking, like, this guy is fucked up for life because of it. Just, why? They slaughtered, like, half a civilization and underwent these horrors and fucking for a few, like, 100 acres of land. Like, I don't know. It's just fucking depressing, guys. So yeah, this is when I'm going to talk about my favorite part of the show. Can you guess what it is? Do you guess what it is? Because I'll tell you what it fucking is. Otis Russell is Alma's father. This man is so odious and so arrogant and so shameless. And the shame is tied directly into the arrogance, like the lack of shame and this feeling of entitlement. And I really feel for Alma here because she just cannot comprehend that her father got his debts paid after they practically had to, like, be on the run because so many people were after him. She can't comprehend the fact that after finally getting that shit paid, that he would go and run up another tab even larger than the previous one. And of course she doesn't understand that because she's a sane fucking human being. But this is something... So before I met my husband, Brendan, I was engaged to somebody who was not good with money. And he cared a lot about what people thought of him. And he really wanted to create an impression of having more than he did. And he would go and spend on credit cards. And I wouldn't know that he was using a credit card to pay. We were living together when I found out that he was something like $9,000 or $10,000 in debt, pure credit card debt, from buying furniture or going out to dinner, which using a credit card to pay for meals is one of the worst things you can possibly do in terms of, like, money handling. You just don't. And he had been doing that all the time, and I had no idea. And he got one of those consolidation loans, and I told him that if he was going to do that, then he really needed to cut up the cards so that he wouldn't continue to use them. Spoiler alert, he did not do that. So he got the consolidation loan, and 2 years later, he ran all of those cards right back up to the limit again. And so owed double what he had owed, because he just did not handle his shit. So I know firsthand how this sort of shit works. Despite assuming that Alma's father had gotten himself back into debt, because that is, of course, what I figured was going on here, I never thought he would stoop to what he stoops to here. This is a man who is willing to let his daughter hang so as to blackmail her into giving him a share in her claim. He would accuse her of murder. And not only that, But he freely talks about the fact that he'd be willing to do this in front of witnesses while gambling, continuing to spend money that he doesn't have. And he says this, there's like, my thing is, you really know that you hate a character when they go head to head with another character you hate, and the other character you hate you wish would win. That it's like the Snape and Umbridge situation. But this scene that I'm talking about is fucking him coming down the stairs after threatening his daughter. And EB asking him whether he's going to be checking out the claim or continuing to gamble today. And he says something about how EB is constantly trying to rub up against his betters. And it's like, he says this as if he doesn't owe an insane amount of money. Like, his pure social standing is all that he's got, but he is making the fucking most of it to a degree that suggests he does not actually think he's fooling anybody. He genuinely believes that he deserves to be where he's at. Again, the entitlement. It's fucking mind-boggling. So, here comes my favorite scene. Guys, I've discovered that one of my personal kinks is watching Timothy Olyphant beat the shit out of a bad man. It is something that I enjoyed while watching Justified. I was going to say True Detective. While watching Justified. But in Justified, a lot of the time, it doesn't quite feel justified. Ironically enough. And it's still satisfying. I still enjoyed it. But I would always just kind of be like, oh man, that's going to fucking come back and bite him in the ass. And I'd be more preoccupied with the overall consequences. Now, I should be occupied with the overall consequences here. I really should. But I can't. I'm firmly in the Bullock frame of mind where I am much more interested in seeing this man covered in blood than I am in worrying about what could potentially go wrong because of it. Because this dude needs a beating. He fucking needs it. And one of my favorite things is that Bullock meets him in the dining area of the hotel. And the way that he's following this guy, everybody fucking can see the tension between all of them. And they start to draw a crowd. Everybody's like stepping outside to watch them walking together and following them into the Bella Union. Because of course that's where he goes. He's not going to spend his time at the Gem. And he starts to fucking poke and prod at Seth. And the thing that's killing me here is that you know that's what he's doing. Right? Like, Seth knows that's what he's doing, for God's sake. Seth is aware that this is a dude purposely needling him because it will look worse for Alma if he gets beat the fuck up by this dude. He's not wrong at all. But, so this motherfucker tells him, oh yeah, no, I mean, I definitely have told my daughter that I want her money. And I'll sign no guarantee not to return or against any future claim on her compassion. But realize that I do hate it here. And if you inhale and expel pure righteousness, my olfactories are keen to the smell of shit. And he's saying all of this, and Merrick is standing right nearby, writing literally all of it down. Having heard all that, and knowing, as you must, the injudiciousness of making an enemy of a man who could testify truthfully that 5 minutes before her marriage he heard his daughter wish her husband dead, And he looks directly at Alma, who has walked in at that point, and she looks like she's going to throw up because she knows she said that shit. And who won't shrink from lying as to what she admitted when, upon his arrival in this cesspool, and as to her complicity in her husband's murder. I suppose you'd best take your swing. And Seth looks at him, and this dude really doesn't think he's going to do it. He really doesn't. Like, he's needling him to get him to do it with the full expectation that Seth will not do it, that he just gets to prove his power. He just wants to demonstrate that he can poke and prod at this guy. And the dude who is like champing at the bit to beat the fuck out of him will not do it. That he's perfectly safe because he knows what he needs to know. So as much as I'm mad that Seth's like caves and does what would help this guy in the end, I also like the fact that this dude clearly did not see this coming, really. Best take your swing, and Seth does, and decks him right in the face, and grabs him and punches him again, and throws him on the ground, and is on top of him, and is punching him again, and his face is like he almost killed the guy. Saul finally comes up to him, and is just like, Seth, dude. And he backs off, and stands over him. And this man is looking dazed and confused. He stops himself just before he manages to actually kill him. Leave this camp and draw a map for anyone who wants to believe your fucking lies. Anyone who wants to put your daughter or her holdings in jeopardy. You show them how to get here, and you tell them, I'll be waiting. And as he says this, her dad turns his head and spits some teeth out. And it's fucking just amazing. And he turns around and he looks at her and she looks at him like she wants to jump his bones right then and there. Because of course she does. Because god damn. Listen, y'all. Can we just turn this whole podcast into me talking about how goddamn fine Timothy Olyphant is? Because Jesus ever-loving Christ, this man is so not the type that I tend to like. He's real like wiry and thin, but like he does righteous anger so well, and I can't get enough of it, and it's wonderful, and it's so good. So I'm way over time here. I'm sorry. This was such a good finale, guys. There's so much to talk about. I'm going to jump ahead to the moment where he and Alma finally have sex, where I literally screamed, yes! And Owen came running out of his office to find out if everything was okay, because he was playing a video game and couldn't hear. He just heard me yell, and he was like, are you all right? I'm like, I am so all right. So that was great. I love them. I love the two of them. I'm so happy at how this all goes. Joni tells this incredibly horrifying story, and it just really goes to show that all these women, their fathers just use them in different ways, and it's just, there's just nothing to be done for it. Like, if you are a woman, you are being used by a man for his own gain somehow. It seems impossible to get away from, So anyway, they have sex. That's awesome. We'll leave that there. Let's talk really, really quickly about Cy Tolliver trying to make a deal with the general. Because what Cy wants is to have some, like, fucking soldiers in order to put them under command of the sheriff. And essentially what he wants to do is unceremoniously oust all of the Asian population and take their property. It's super duper gross. I'm not sure how much of his overall plan in that direction the general even knows, but he is aware that Cy is a fucking scumbag cockroach. And when Cy continues to try and convince him, he finally says to him, if I was sheriff, I'd have you hanged, which is a beautiful moment that I will savor for the end of time. It's so good. Okay. Yeah, I just love that so much. I really, really do. All right, so I really, really, really love the fact that after all of this, Seth has decided to become sheriff after all. And I love how it goes down because, in short, the general, like, Cy and the general are in the middle of their conversation when Seth walks in and explains that there is a man who needs protection that he himself beat the shit out of. And the general, like, seems to assess exactly what the fuck, like, he seems to just understand. And he looks at Seth, and I'm paraphrasing here, but basically says, if you are aware that your sheriff at present is a piece of shit, and you yourself have, you know, a temperament that leans in the direction of doing what is right and good and just, then maybe you should fucking serve your fellow men with those skills, abilities, and that knowledge. What do you think? He doesn't say, you selfish fuck, but it's a little bit implied. And then ends it with, as Seth is walking away, we all have bloody thoughts. Which I really liked. That he's just, look, we all want to fucking hurt people that do wrong. We all do, because it's hard to watch. And sometimes people are going to get away with it, you know, but that doesn't mean that you are incapable of doing the best that you can do, which is light years better than the best, quote unquote, the other guy's doing, assuming he's doing his best at all. So yeah, this moment is a really nice one of Seth connecting with somebody else who has the same fucking backbone that he does, getting a sort of sign from heaven almost to do this. And then he goes to Swearingen and tells him, I'll be the fucking sheriff. And it's just a wonderful, like, turn of events. And you see how satisfied Al is. Like, this is exactly what he needs. He's just delighted. It couldn't, in terms of how bad everything was going with him and Wu, this is best case scenario turn of events for him. And then, the other thing to talk about is the doc and the Reverend. So the Reverend is doing really badly, gets brought into the gem. And we go to the doc, who is praying and acknowledges that he does not pray often and demands to know why the fuck God won't just let that Reverend die. Like, what purpose does this serve? And then wants to know what purpose did it serve those other boys when they were screaming and yelling, when they were shot in the leg, or, you know, God knows, because clearly he served in the war. And he's still got a lot of rage. A lot of it. Like, this monologue that he does is just, it's a lot. It's hard to watch, you know? And so he's praying to God to please just fucking let this man die in peace and give him some rest. And as he's praying for this, we watch Al go into the Reverend's room and kill him. It's a mercy killing. And it's so beautifully done. It's so beautiful. Like, this man is praying for God's help. And God is using this, like, angel of death sort of character to do it. And showing us one of the few ways in which death can be wielded as a mercy rather than in the way that Al normally does it. And Al doesn't normally fucking care. It's not, I don't really think he doesn't care, period. But he doesn't ever display any sort of feeling after murdering someone. But this, he's crying, and he says, "You can go now, brother," to him. And I can't help but think that that's meant in both a, like, camaraderie sort of brother, And also, his own brother suffered from this, and I just can't help but wonder what happened there. And, you know, everybody in the room sees this, and they're all moved by it. Like, Doherty comes in, and he's clearly crying, too. Like, it's just... But the doctor is so relieved. And I have to think that he has to know, even though he told Al he doesn't want to go down that way. I feel like he had to know when he sent this man over there. Did he do this with the understanding, even if it were subconscious, that this man has specifically not wanted it to be handled like this, but if I hand him over, I know that's how it's going to be handled, and I know that's how it needs to be handled, even though he didn't want that. So I'm going to put myself in a position of plausible deniability. It could be that. Or he could just have trusted Al to not kill the man, which is possible, but I don't know why he would. And in this regard, it's a real departure from what sort of started to happen with Seth, which is he went in there after Alma's father, and told them basically her father can implicate you in her husband's murder. And they're like, yeah, so what does that mean? You want us to kill him? And he's like, no, I didn't say that. And they're like, bullshit, you didn't. It's Doherty talking to him. Says, why don't you put that badge on? You're a hypocrite enough to wear it. And I was like, oh, Doherty. He just said that shit. Like, and I can't help but think that Seth admired him for it. As much as he's pissed at somebody just calling him out like that, I think there was a little bit of him that was like, all right, fine, you're not going to listen to my shit, I guess. But, man, Doherty, that was a good moment for you, buddy. I liked it. So, yeah, they're both like, if we do assume that the doc had to know, Al was probably going to take care of this priest anyway. There are different people in the camp trying to use Al because they know that he doesn't care about killing, that he's fine with it if it needs doing. And some people are able to get that plausible deniability and really get it. And other people try and have it even though they don't really. And it's not going to work that way for them, Seth. I'm looking at you, Seth. So he ends up deciding to sort of defend the guy. Even though if he decides to come back, if her father decides to come back and cause trouble, it could ruin everything. But he has decided that he needs to deal with the consequences of his own actions. And that if the man decides to come back and cause trouble, then we'll deal with it when it comes. But for right now, Seth is mostly interested in making sure that the guy gets out of camp. Because he knows that he himself or one of Al's guys is going to kill him. I feel like he's worried about himself just as much, to be honest, in some ways. So yeah, they just pile her father over the back of a fucking mule and send him out of camp, and it's hilarious. I had no idea he was going to be handled that fucking harshly, but I'm not mad about it. As she put it, I do not begrudge my father an uncomfortable journey. So the episode ends with Al toasting to Seth after he agrees to be sheriff. Seth standing on the balcony looking out across the street to Alma, who is standing in the window opposite. And then there's just, this gulf between the two of them and them just staring at each other. Very symbolic. When Al goes and surveys his domain in the gem, the doctor is down there dancing with fucking Jewel. Because now she can dance because she's got this brace. And it's the sweetest thing in the whole wide world. And she says, say I'm as nimble as a forest creature. And he says, you're as nimble as a forest creature. And she says, no, say it about yourself. And I loved this, like she's the woman who needed his help and who was disabled. But she's over here being like, dude, come on, have some fun, like do yourself a favor here. And I loved it. And then Trixie turns and looks up at Al and smiles at him, a genuine smile. And you can tell that he sees that it's a genuine smile. And you just really get the feeling all of a sudden that everything's okay between the two of them too. Like there's just a moment of peace and respite for everybody here. And you know that shit's going to go down, But the way that it's gone so far, it's just such a beautiful ending, and I loved it so much. Loved it. So, yeah. Let me look at my calendar, because there is one day, guys, where Patrick, on the 20th, there it is, Patrick had commissioned 2 episodes in a row as a birthday present to himself. And so that's the first and second episodes of season 2, because there is not an episode later on in this week. I thought that there was. Okay, cool. So I will be doing a back-to-back set of commissions on Wednesday the 20th in the morning, starting at 11 a.m. For those of you who are interested, because he says that that's kind of like a 2-parter and that they go together. So just FYI that I will be, when I record on the next episode, it will contain some spoilers for the episode following. So if you're trying to watch along with me, watch episodes 1 and 2 of season 2 together. Otherwise, I will be spoiling you. And I'll warn you at the beginning of the ep too. But I just want to let you all know now. So, all right, everybody. Thank you all so much for listening and for bearing with me, even though I went over time. And I will see you soon with a new episode. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.